Hi friends and welcome back. I am so excited that you are here with me, and I am pretty excited to be sharing a new grid journal video with you. So I have been busy posting the play along journal series here on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to go check that out. I am working through 2 handmade art journals from beginning to end, and I take you along for every step of the way. I'll make sure to include the link for that playlist down below. But right now I'm going to be taking 2 weeks off. I'm going on vacation, and I thought it would be a good time to let you guys catch up on that series and also post some of the other fun things that I've been working on that have kind of been hidden away in my arsenal. So I wanted to have a chance to share all the fun things that I'm working on, not just the one series. So that leads me to this grid journal spread here today. So this is a notebook that's about 8.5 by 11, and I have pre-drawn some grids inside. I actually have gone ahead and made myself a variety of different box rectangle stencils, and I did that just by using a thin piece of cardboard. You can use like a cereal box weight cardboard, or really any cardboard, or even a piece of cardstock would work just fine. So find little objects that you want for your size. Like this may be like about a business card size, I would say. Or you can take that object and trace right around it. For some reason, tracing around an object is harder for me than using it as like a stencil and drawing on the inside. So either way is just fine. That's just a little tip that I came up with that makes drawing the grids a little bit more enjoyable for me. As you can see at the beginning of the video, I held up that printed art sheet there, and that's actually taken from my own original artwork, and I scanned it in at a high quality, and I like to then use these downloads in my work. I sell quite a few different digital downloads in my shop, and this one is actually available for free. So I'm going to include the link down below. Make sure that you sign up for that link. You just have to put your email address in, and then it lets you download that for free. You can print it out as many times as you want and use it in your own personal artwork. So I really have started to use a lot of these in my work because you can add little details more to them and make them so unique. So make sure to check those out on my website as well. And right now for the month of April, there is 28% off everything that is stickers, papers, digital and printed, and also stationery. So I sell stationery as sets taken from these original art scans. And I also sell them where you can just buy the artist envelopes on their own, or just the note cards if you want to use your own envelopes and send as birthday cards or whatever you may want to use them for. So you may be thinking that 28% is a very odd price, and it is, but tomorrow is my 28th birthday, so I thought, why not do 28% for the whole month of April? So make sure to go check that out. The code is birthday28, and make sure to enter that at checkout. I will also put that code in the description below, and that's just valid for the month of April. So I've made a little bit of a progress on this grid journal page, and I just started with a few scribble art marks. I wanted a nice, subtle kind of base color. So I pulled out, I think it's N5 neutral gray from Golden, and it's a heavy body, and it's really nice and creamy, and I like to apply that with my fingers oftentimes, and just dry, not with additional water. I like to be careful adding water in my journals themselves, just because it can seep through to other pages, but don't let that stop you from trying different things and different techniques. You can always add gesso onto your pages beforehand if you're really worried about it seeping through, or just be careful and use in moderation. You can always add more. So I used that digital download. I didn't put it in every square, but I wanted to add a little bit of quick interest onto the page. Instead of going through and making all those individual marks on each individual square, that paper added some quick marks and some quick interest for me right away. I have this really pretty purple color of paint that I am adding on just with the palette knife, and I'm using that palette knife in no proper way, but rather just kind of using it to smear that paint across the page and just seeing how that looks going on. So I don't use it in any one particular way. I think oftentimes a paintbrush can almost be limiting because we think that there's like a proper way to use it. And there probably is, but I don't have proper training. So I try to break free of those quote unquote rules a little bit and play like a kid would play. Play like they don't know what's proper or how you're supposed to do something. They just play because they want to. They like the art. They want to get their hands messy and dirty and get a little bit grungy. So I'm adding in some of this Stabilo all pencil, and I just marked with it like a regular pencil to start with, a few little scribble marks here and there. And now with a damp paintbrush, I just dipped that directly in the water. I'm using that to kind of move that pigment across those squares a little bit. As I'm going, I'm thinking about overall composition of these 2 pages put together, but mainly I think about each little individual square as a whole. I guess I can't say mainly. I think about it probably equally. I like to look at them as 2 different and then bring them back in together. So I'm looking at each square and seeing what it needs. But as a whole, looking at the whole page, the 2 pages put together, if I did the exact same mark in every single box, it would look repetitive in a predictable way, if that makes sense. So we want repetitive in a way that adds cohesion to your page. It adds a little bit of spice, a little bit of interest. But if we put the same mark in the same spot, in the same box, over and over, it would look a little bit more pristine, maybe more contrived. I think there's times to try different things and even to have that repetitive mark that's predictable. But in this work that I'm doing here, I want to have that abstract feeling. I want the grunginess. I want it to just feel a little bit messy and haphazard a little bit. So in each square, the composition does play a big part. So I want to make sure that I am not filling up each square entirely. I want to leave some of that negative white space. This helps to kind of brighten up the page overall. And negative space, I think, can be just as powerful, if not more powerful, than the space that you're actually putting things in. So make sure to be conscious of that negative space. Now, it's really easy to overcreate, maybe overdo it, add too much, go a little bit overboard. I'm definitely guilty of this. One great way to add back in that negative space is gesso. So you could do it in reverse. You could use black gesso, and then you kind of have the opposite of what you would think of as negative space. That black kind of becomes the negative space. Another way to think of the negative space is maybe just blank space. If negative sense doesn't make sense in your mind, maybe think of it more as just those areas that your eye can rest a little bit. So we want to have action. We want to have things going on, but at the same time, your eye can be too overwhelmed if everything has things going on. If you think about, like a sports game, any sports, it's not like high action impact scoring the whole time. There's a lot of plays and stuff in between. I don't know why I thought of a sports metaphor. We're artists here. We want to think about art things, maybe not the sports. Anyway, I think you know what I'm saying. There needs to be an ebb and a flow. There needs to be the mix of the negative and the positive all together. I'm using some tape here, and it's like masking tape. In fact, it may be called masking tape, but it's just black instead of the traditional like tan color. So I ripped pieces, I don't know, what are they, like 2 inches long or something. But then instead of just leaving them like that, the width that they came, I'm then taking them and ripping them vertically. So I have long strips, but I have these jagged edges on both sides instead of just the short sides. So often when we rip tape off, we just rip it like normal, and that's actually how I use it the most. But sometimes I like to create these long skinny pieces, and you can then use them in collage along with your papers when you're collaging, or maybe you have a piece of paper that's thicker than the rest and you're having a hard time sticking it down. Try to think about tape in it, and don't try to use the tape just to like hide it, but make the tape an element that you actually see. Like in this one, those the tape marks, they become places that your eye is drawn to. So you could have, instead of the tape, used a marker to create those marks as well and to create that interest. I try to use a variety of different supplies. So I want to create lots of textures on the page. So that tape gives me a different texture than paint would give me. And a different texture than a marker would give me. And this little supply that I'm using right now to create these white art marks, that creates another texture as well. So that's actually a whiteout correction fluid. And so it dries pretty quick. And when it dries, if you run your fingers over it, it's a little bit textured, a little bit bumpy. This is actually one of my favorite supplies that I've been using. And whenever I show it, like on Instagram, that I'm using it, everybody always asks, what is that? Where can I get one? It marks over, I think, pretty much like everything that I have tried it on. Maybe, I don't think oils. So like oil pastel, it does not mark very well over, but I'm not sure that anything really does unless you use an adhesive, or a fixative, and then mark over top of it. So it can work a little bit better than maybe your regular like paint marker would. So if you have an issue with white paint markers, which I usually do, try out this correction fluid and see how it works for you. With my bold black pen here, I'm adding a few more marks. And again, like I talked about in the beginning, I'm having some repetition here, but I'm not doing the exact same thing in each square, but I'm bringing in some of the elements from one square to the next, just so that we can have that cohesion amongst them. As always, I try to link all the supplies that I use down in the description below if you want to know what I'm using and where I got it. Make sure to check there first. Now, I use a lot of supplies in this video, so hopefully I'll be able to catch them all when I go through and find those links. But if for some reason I missed one, just leave a comment down below and I will find out where that is from for you. If I know where to find it, I'll get you that link. So make sure to check those out as well. Also, let me know what you think about this video. Do you want to see more videos like this that I am just working and playing in the journal? Do you want to see more maybe tutorials of like how to make individual things? I'm kind of at a point of planning for the next year, and I want to know what you guys want to see, because I love to create and you guys to get encouraged and inspired by it. So I never tried to create for anyone else. I try to create for myself, but I do like to use what others are feeling like they're needing at the moment and use that to inspire what I want to create. So make sure to leave your feedback down below of what you want to see from me in the next couple months. I would love to hear it from you. I'm adding in some bold black marks now. I added in that pen, and it is a bold pen, but it still is not as bold as this paint marker. Now with the other colors of like Posca markers or paint markers, acrylic fluid markers, I don't have the issue of it being able to draw over things. It's pretty much just with that white. And so I find that this black is a really nice nib size and creates really nice marks. This is kind of the stage in the spread where I'm feeling like a little bit is still missing. I want to add, but it's also kind of like a dangerous spot in the spread because it's so easy to then go overboard with these marks. I feel like I could just make these dots all day long and never really be done with it. So I like to try to do a few, take a step back, lean back in your chair, maybe look at your page in a different way and see if there's any more marks actually needed. I felt like a few of these squares needed a little bit more pizzazz, maybe a little bit more of a punch of a pop. And so I'm going in with another color that's in the same tones, but it's a little bit brighter, and the shade is a little bit different. So it should pop a little bit more than the colors I applied in the beginning. My finger is a great tool to use at this stage to add the paint because I really want to manipulate where I put it. Sometimes when you apply it with a brush or a palette knife, it can go maybe more places than you want it to go. You don't have as much control. But with my finger, I can take little amounts and kind of build that color and build those layers little by little, and I can keep coming back and adding more if I want to. As I look at the page now, I think it could have been done without this last pop of color. I like where this ended up. I'm not unhappy with it at all. I really like it. Sometimes in the moment, it's hard to just say that we're done. We almost like just keep adding until somebody comes and takes our supplies away, you know? We can just keep adding until we get to a point where it's too much. So don't be afraid to say that you're done on a spread. You can always come back later and add more. I think that can go with paintings and other things as well. The other thing is if you do go overboard, if you come back the next day and you think, oh, wow, this is too busy, use gesso. Cover part of it up. Collage over part of it. I think you can always rework a piece. I can't say nothing because there's some things, but nothing is ever really like lost for good, you know, like, oh, this is unfixable. I think we can always try to rework things and to see where it goes. So I hope that you guys loved this video. I really enjoyed sharing it with you. It was fun to talk through a different style than the mini journals that I have been showing you guys. And I hope that you loved it as much as I do. Let me know what you think down below, and I cannot wait to see you soon. I'll have some other fun videos to share with you in the upcoming days. Have a good one.